I think the abortion issue has been taken down many notches. I don't think it's a big factor anymore, really. Now the states are voting. And frankly, some of the votes are much more, if you could say, liberal than you would think. Ohio turned out to be, they had a big vote, and it turned out to be a much more liberal standing than people would have thought.
So that was former President Donald Trump earlier this month weighing in on the subject of abortion. His latest position on the issue is, though, causing some evangelicals to question their support of the Republican presidential nominee. Case in point, North Carolina pastor Ben Marsh posted the following on social media. People who did not grow up in evangelical political spaces have no idea how disorienting it is to be told for 30 years, A, you could not vote for a morally bad person, B, you had to vote for a pro-life candidate, only now to be told you have to vote for a pro-choice felon. Joining us now, contributing writer for The Atlantic and senior fellow at the Trinity Forum, Peter Wehner. Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. Okay, so recently on Truth Social, Donald Trump said, my administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. And my immediate thought was, what will evangelical supporters think about that? Are you seeing any indication that evangelical supporters might actually now switch their vote to vote for a Democrat, or is it more that they're just disgruntled and will carry on voting for Donald Trump anyway?
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to vote for Kamala Harris, and I don't think they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. And the reason I don't is because I think that they've basically been exposed, at least a lot of people in the movement, that they're not nearly as pro-life as they said that they were, and that what matters to them more is a kind of partisan identity. They have fused, their identity is fused with Donald Trump, and fusing with Donald Trump means fusing with his moral depravity. And I don't think that they're going to move. This is a kind of cult-like moment that we're seeing, and a lot of the white evangelical movement is part of that cult.
Yeah, Peter, let's drill in on that a little further, because it does seem like for these evangelicals who, as you correctly say, would never have dreamed in, let's say, early 2015 of supporting someone like Donald Trump, but he gave them the 3 Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade. It seems like for so many, they're now just along for the ride, no matter where that goes. Do you see anything creating a fissure there, or the evangelicals, and that includes with the Republican Party, when Donald Trump leaves the scene, whenever that might be, where do they go then?
Yeah, I don't see any fissures between now and the election. The hold that Donald Trump has on the base of the party and among white evangelicals is extraordinary. It's comparable or potentially even greater than Ronald Reagan. So that's not going to change. If and when Donald Trump leaves the scene, what's going to happen? I think it's hard to say. I think Trump's imprint on the party is profound, and we're probably looking at a generation-long effect. What will happen with the pro-life movement? I don't know. If when Trump leaves, I think we're going to go back to their pro-life views, but we will have had a kind of moral and ethical CAT scan during this election, by which I mean that Trump, in a sense, revealed what was underneath a lot of the attitudes of a lot of people who claim to be conservative and traditional Republicans. And it turns out that a lot of it was a fiction. A lot of it was an illusion. And so there's a lot of hypocrisy. And I think that there will be a comeuppance that'll happen because of this.
Alexei, it's pretty obvious what Donald Trump is trying to do here. He's trying to kind of take the sting out of the overturning of Roe v. Wade when he writes things like, he's going to be great for reproductive rights. But how much does that actually convince? Do we know how much it convinced wavering voters that actually he's not about to try and enforce a national ban or support a national ban or do all of the things that Project 2025 seems to suggest that they would like to do?
Trump's audacity is such that he thinks if he tweets it or writes it, it's true and everyone will suddenly believe him. The facts do not help Trump. They are never on his side, and that's why he skips over them every time. It is absurd for him to write something like he would protect women and our reproductive rights. He has gone against them. Even his most liberal stance on abortion is still bad for women. And the truth of the matter is his running mate, J.D. Vance, wants to control women's bodies as much as he possibly can. So there is no daylight between Trump, J.D. Vance, Project 2025, and the most anti-woman conservatives out there, no matter what he puts on Truth Social.
Peter, what's your reading on the issue of reproductive rights, specifically when it comes to the evangelical community? We know that it's going to be a motivator for Democrats. Is there going to be a sort of comparison motivator on the right, which is we are going to try and elect people who we hope will enforce some kind of national ban or propose a national ban, even if they're saying at the moment that they won't, because we believe that actually when they get there, they may do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, in the past, it's been basically a draw in terms of pro-choice, pro-life movement being motivated. In this case, I think it's clearly that the pro-choice movement has a political motivation. The Dobbs decision changed everything. We've seen states like Kansas and Kentucky, which are deep red states, turn aside pro-life initiatives. And the pro-life community is dispirited, both because they see that public opinion is shifting strong against them, but also this betrayal of Donald Trump. I mean, it doesn't hurt. They're going to stick with him, but it does dispirit them. You know, they're a movement. They're the latest movement that's been betrayed by Donald Trump. Betrayal has been a through line through Donald Trump's entire life. The fact that he betrays people and causes is not news. The important thing is that a lot of Republicans and so-called conservatives and pro-lifers, they're the ones that are being exposed. That's the thing I think that needs to be drilled home.
Pete Wehner, thank you very much for joining us this morning. The new piece is for The Atlantic. Trump's evangelical supporters just lost their best excuse, and it's online now.